welcome to a new episode of Mendix Malt. I'm here with Wouter from Magnus.
Hi.
Wouter's been involved with Mendix for ages, and I got to know him a little bit at Mendix World, and we've had 1 or 2 calls since then. So I had a fortunate trip where I was lucky enough to come through Rotterdam, and so I used the opportunity to touch base with him, and we're going to ask him 3 questions about the Mendix environment, so it's going to be interesting. The first question is, you've been involved since the early days of Mendix, like early days, before microflow days.
Yeah.
So tell us what that was like. Tell us what it was like to develop solutions in Mendix back then.
All right, so at first Mendix, they just started out. It was like, 10 people at the company, maybe. They were located here in Rotterdam, but way on the outskirts of Rotterdam. And they were looking for partners, and I don't know how they came in contact with us, but they presented their solution at our offices. And what they showed us, it didn't really quite click yet. However, the way in which they were able to quickly build like forms, screens, or back then they were called patterns, gave us the impression that maybe there's something to this. Maybe it's way easier to develop with Mendix instead of .NET, for example. So we tried it out. We rebuilt an application that we already had in .NET in Mendix, and it took us about 2 weeks, which gave us confidence that there's something to this, right? But in terms of what they showed us of Mendix, it was called the Mendix Workshop back then. What we now know as Studio Pro used to be called the Mendix Workshop. Well, it didn't really have a graphical interface yet. It was really bare bones. It was, I think, a beta version 1.4, maybe 1.8, something around that. The Mendix Workshop application, what it didn't have pretty much anything. It had a data model, which had, for instance, reference arrows pointing the wrong way around. So I learned it the wrong way. And then had to adjust years later when they switched it to the correct way. It had all the attributes that we know now, but stuff like non-persistent objects weren't even a thing. And there were no microflows at all. Any microflow that you would like to use is Java that you had to program. So the first application that we built, which was for Sanoma Publishing, and funny story, I just came from them today, making changes in that same application that we built like 12 years ago.
Yes.
So it's still going strong, and it's still been upgraded and stuff like that. So it was full of Java code, and still we managed to deliver way quicker than we ever would have if we were sticking to .NET with that application. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really amazing. So I mean, you've seen a lot of things throughout this roadmap that Mendix has rolled out.
Yeah.
What do you think some of the forces that are playing out in the Mendix ecosystem now?
Yeah.
What do you think those are that affect partners, that affect Mendix as a platform? What do you think those things are?
Okay, so what a really great force is the low-code concept. Yeah, people know about it. People know about low-code, people know about no-code, people know there's something there that we need to be knowledgeable of, and something that we might have a lot of advantages if we employ it.
It's gaining a lot of popularity now.
Yeah, so back in the day we were more or less pitching the solution, the final application, and then we had to, when they're interested, tell them about how we do this. How can we do this quickly? How can we make sure we don't make errors? Because the error handling was already in there. The internal consistency checks were pretty good, although they took 5 minutes. So we switched them off and then we switched them on again before deploying or committing. Well, committing wasn't even a thing. All right, so Stone Age. But right now the whole low-code movement is great. It's great to see people being interested and coming for the platform and what can the platform do instead of us pitching solutions and then introducing what platform we're doing that with. Another interesting one, of course, is the whole digital transformation, let's say transformation. So the whole way in which companies are now aware that they need to start thinking in a digital way. And if you don't, and if you're not focusing on that, then your competitor will eventually just overtake you, talking a language internally that you don't even understand yet.
Right.
So it's time to think about it and get into the digital transformation, and Mendix is a great way to do that.
Right. So the last question. You've spoken a little bit about how these are the forces that played out on the Mendix environment. You've spoken of where Mendix comes from.
Yeah.
What is your kind of predictions in terms of where Mendix might be going to both in terms of what you think their roadmap might be, but also what you think the market might need or think they need.
Yeah. That's a good question, of course. So I don't know what the market thinks they need, but what I think they do need is in 10 years' time a CEO who's able to draw the data model of their own company on a whiteboard without stumbling about it.
Right.
Making sure that they know on the low level, this is my company, these are the processes, this is what my product is, this is how the whole digital look and feel of my company should be, what it should be. And having a perspective on that. Now it's on the one hand the CIO, on the other hand the CIO or the IT director, and sometimes they talk the same language, but oftentimes they do not. I don't think you've got a future-proof company if in 10 years' time you're not able as a CEO to talk IT.
Right.
People like me and people like all the other 70,000 Mendix developers out there are able to talk both IT and business in the same conversation.
Right.
So getting to know IT and using Mendix to automate your own processes and to think about the possibilities that are there, it's really powerful in terms of what Mendix does to a company and to the economy. So that's a big one. The other one is, of course, the machine learning. That's a more short term. Machine learning now becoming also predictive on actions that you've got before the part that machine learning steps in. It used to be the next thing that you would like to do. Now it's okay, maybe you've forgotten this step in your logic. That makes it all way easier, of course. And if that develops in a few years' time, then maybe I will be able to use a voice assistant, talk about what I'd like. For instance, I would like, if any order exceeds 20K or a limit that I set myself every year and think about it, if it exceeds that amount, then I would like somebody to confirm it. And then the application will ask you, okay, so who would you like to confirm and what would you like to do if that person isn't there? And how about introducing different levels? Because that's all we do right now. And asking those questions is fun to do, but it's not a problem if everybody's able to develop applications much quicker, so that we can all stay ahead in terms of competition and keep our own economy going, of course. We don't want to have everything outsourced. Every service that we use to be from a different country or for a different continent. It's great if, for instance, in this case, Europe is also a leader in that. And Mendix is like a great showcase for European innovation.
So definitely I think in terms of that space between business and IT, Mendix is going to continue to focus in on that place because that's where the need is, right? That's why he's saying the text to logic will surely come through. What do you think about things like certain engineering standards? Right now Mendix deploys, if you want to write unit tests, you deploy those unit tests in production. That's not the greatest thing, right? So do you think there's some things that Mendix might start to solve on an ongoing engineering perspective?
It's always a question of roadmap, because Mendix is always open to feedback, and I've talked about a few of these topics for years now, like 6-7 years back. But they do have their own roadmap, of course, and there's stuff on the roadmap that I didn't think about, but I'm glad that they implemented it. So a big thing that I would like is for internal consistency checking to be better than it is right now. It's already pretty good, but it's limited to what it does. So right now, for instance, I've got a question from a customer saying, okay, this piece of computation of pricing is not always hitting. It's not always triggered. So what could have triggered or failed to trigger this piece of application? I don't know. I have, as a human, have to go through all the logic instead of being able to ask that question to the Mendix application itself. So give me moments in which this might be bypassed.
That's awesome.
So don't give me what it's looking at, but give me what it's not looking at.
Right.
Stuff like that would be pretty awesome in having even sturdier applications.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay, cool. Well, so thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I know you traveled far to come here and
you traveled far to come here.
I did, but it's been really great and productive, and I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.